Welcome, folks, to another great episode of Away from the Keyboards, the show that focuses on scale at a human level. My guest today is Volkan, the founder and CTO of Analytix Power, a boutique consultancy firm that focuses on, you guessed it, data and analytics with a heavy background on engineering. On this episode, we talk about how it all started for Volkan and some tips and tricks he learned along the way on how to scale teams and how to scale himself. So sit back, relax, and join us for an exciting chat that starts all the way back in primary school. So without any further ado, Volkan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming here and having this chat. And since we first started speaking about it, you have a very curious background as how you moved around and the industry that you've been. First question is always the same for everyone. How did it all started for you? What is your origin story?
Oh, my origin story. Yeah, so for me, software engineering or computer science started in primary school, actually. So it was the second year, end of the year, our teachers started asking everyone in the class, what do you want to become when you grow older and graduate? And of course, kids around that age, a few different occupations that you can take, I want to become a police officer, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a lawyer. So when it was my turn, I said I want to become a lawyer because we had a relative that was a lawyer, well, very much respected in the family and, just like a role model. So I said I want to become a lawyer. And she said, I do like to talk a lot. So she said I could become a lawyer, but actually I was pretty good at math. So she said, you should become a software engineer. And I said, okay, I will become a software engineer then. And that really, I stick to that promise. So from that moment on, I said, okay, I will go study software engineering, and I did.
Yeah, that's a really curious story. And I think when we first spoke as well, it's the influence that a teacher can have in the way that you grow up, and several decades afterwards you're there as a software engineer, and just by having that little nudge in primary school basically put you in the career path to follow this profession, right?
Yeah, that's true. And also it was 1990 when this happened. So the software engineering computers, they weren't that popular. They were still new. Only a few places you had computers, and it was just full unknown. For regular people on the street, they wouldn't even know what software is. So yeah, it was, I think, quite visionary for my teacher to see the future of software engineering and advice to me. And I was a good student to listen to her. I'm happy that I did that.
And this is all pre-internet even. It's like in the early 90s, like no one is even talking about going online, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you had a computer, probably if you were lucky and you could play some games, that was it. Otherwise, just you had a keyboard and maybe something like a notepad that you could just type things and save it, right? So because I didn't have a computer back in that time, I don't even know if you had some visual interface or it was just a terminal in 1990 that you could just buy a computer home and use it like that. So yeah, it was not popular. I think it was not maybe clear what people could do in their personal lives with computers. It was more for maybe enterprise to use it, but not really like personal computers.
Yeah, if I go back and I think about 1990s, like I did have a computer back then, and we were around the same age. I was also in primary school back then, and it was a Philips 8086, and I remember like it used to have a gigantic hard drive, like twice the size of a normal hard drive today, and they are pretty clunky as well. And the whole hard drive had 20 megabytes. That was how big it was. And basically for me, it was just it was my gaming console. I used the computer to play games, and there was no GUI. Like everything was MS-DOS, and you have to type in all the commands. Like the games would have graphic interfaces, of course, but we'd interact with the computer. This was way before Windows 3.10 or 3.11. So
I bought my first computer when I was in university, already studying computer science and engineering. So I don't have much memories before that, like what computer is and what you could do. Somehow I just was stuck with that idea that I wanted to become a software engineer.
And that's a good one. And you started as a software engineering coding Java, right? And then somewhere along the line, you decided to move a bit more into data. So how did that all started?
Well, actually, first of all, my start was with .NET. So I was in the fourth year of university, started working already, and I was a .NET developer. And also I was the Microsoft MVP student at the university. So I worked with .NET for about 1.5 years. And then after graduation with my first job that I started working with Java and JavaScript. So when it comes to moving to data from software engineering, actually, I don't see it like that. So for me, software, it is still software engineering. It's just the problems that you're dealing with is slightly different. So in the data domain, you're dealing with basically processing bigger amount of data. But on the application side, if you think about it, you're building software to capture, process, and serve data as well. So you're still working on data. It's just the amount of data changes and the performance requirements, SLAs are different. But a lot of things you do in software engineering, you do in data side as well. So the data modeling still requires storage solutions. Still you need to still need to share data with maybe other services, other applications. And for me, it is software engineering is just like umbrella, and data engineering is more focused on handling big data, processing big data, storing it. And on the application engineering side, then things are, the focus is different. So that's how I see it, and how I started working more on the data domain is maybe it's a little bit of a long story. So I don't know if you want to hear it or just leave it there.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so it started in the Netherlands. After graduation, I worked in Turkey for about 14, 15 months and for a bank. And then I moved to Netherlands again to work for a bank. And our project was modernization of the core banking system. So we built an in-house core banking system and replaced it with the older system that was the commercial one. And my first assignment or responsibility was to build a CI/CD tool. So back in time, we didn't have these modern CI/CD tools. You had version control systems, but didn't really have the Git yet in place. So I built a solution that could, on the local environment, development environment, run your tests, check code quality, package your, it was with Java, so package your Java code, and then a CD solution that would deploy it to different environments. And based on the quality, it had the rules saying if quality degrades, then you need approvals and stuff. So that's what I was busy with. And then the management came and said, there was a parallel project. They bought a tool for IFRS reporting. So this is International Financial Reporting Standard, I guess. And they were just working on it for quite a long time, but and they were just basically checking the results generated by the tool versus the expected results based on, I think, manual calculations. And there was constantly discrepancy and they couldn't move forward. So I was asked to look at it. And then I started working with financial control department, business intelligence, our software engineers, tried to figure out what was going on. And then I found out that they were using different data sets, so data from different days. So they were getting the snapshot of the database for banking system, but they were feeding different snapshots to two different systems. Of course, they were different. So it solved. And then the next, our project manager and the engineering manager came and said, like, look, for this project, we also need to migrate the existing data to the new core banking system. So can you build an ETL tool and migrate for migration? And then I said, yes, I can. I think the reason they asked me, because I was really a junior developer with, a couple of years of experience. I realized later that was very challenging job. It's not just the technical part, but the source system was very old, no support anymore, no documentation, not even a driver or anything. So I had to use a command line interface to run some queries, print the result into console, read it, text parsing, and upload it, something like that. So that's how I got into more like a bigger data or big data area. And then I switched to Pega systems. Then I started working on machine learning. So not like a data scientist. It's more like an engineer. I just built our ML models. We were just basically deploying it as an API and integrating into the applications. And there also started working on in-memory grid computing, parallel computing. This was way before Spark. So that's how I started working on more, data-intensive application development. Still I see it as like a software engineering, but it was dealing with a lot of data.
Yeah, indeed, still a software engineering challenge, but with a little bit of data attached to it. That's so cool. And before we move on to our next topic, which I want to know the rest of the story, that now you started your own company and you started scaling yourself as well. But before that, we have a recurrent segment in this show that is called Pass It Forward, where a guest gets the chance to pass forward the question to another guest. And the previous question comes from Christoph. He is the creator of the application called Done That watches your screen and tries to find where you're going to optimize the way you do your work. And this question is, what is something actionable that you would recommend to the listeners to try out this week?
Oh, that's really a tough question. Is it more on the professional side?
It's up to you.
Okay. Well, I think maybe a bit outside. It's more about the health. So what I would recommend is just, if you're not doing so, start doing exercises right away.
That's a lovely one. I think that's a great advice for everyone. And you can do it at home. You don't need anything fancy. Just drop on push-ups and some jumping jacks, right? And you'll be sure to be a bit happier than before.
Absolutely. And a healthy mind comes from healthy body. So it's really important to pay attention to that. And I'm advising this. Am I doing that? Not good enough. I try to walk as much as possible, do a little bit of exercises. And every time I do that, I do definitely feel the positive impact. And am I doing it regularly? No, that's something I should do as well. So it's an advice for listeners, but also advice to myself.
So you can take it as well when you listen back to the podcast as well.
Exactly.
Cool. And now moving into our main topic, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you is when we had the first conversation as well. You mentioned that the reason that you started the company is because there was a need there, that someone was reaching out, that they wanted to use your skills for some projects, and then it started becoming a bit more, and then it expanded into you being able to hire others to basically scale yourself. So tell me a little bit about Analytix Power and the mission behind it.
Yeah, sure. So how I started Analytix Power, what was the driver there is actually, before Analytix Power, I started working as freelancer. So about 4 or 5 years, I was working freelance consultant. And what I realized that there was a lot of waste in the companies, in big enterprises that I was working for back in that time. And one of the things that I do really love what I do. So it's more of a hobby for me than a job. And I'm really focused on creating value as fast as possible, as cheap as possible, with the high quality. And that has been my mindset, and that's how I was doing the business as well. And I noticed that there was like really growing demand towards data professionals, or data specialists, and there wasn't enough people around. So what did the companies do? They basically started hiring a lot of people that didn't really have the background for it. It was more like a bit of knowledge about how to process data, like using SQL, a bit of database knowledge, a bit of background from the BI side, but not really the software engineering skills were there. So I saw that a lot of people were working on big projects, a lot of money spent on it, but very little progress. And everywhere I was working at, it was mainly challenging new projects, either innovations like, MLOps, building MLOps kind of solutions, or big data solutions like data lakes nowadays, lake houses. And then I saw that the lack of software engineering skills was quite a big problem. And the clients that I was working with, they were really happy with the performance, and they were asking me, like, why don't you just scale? Why don't you hire more people so that we can actually give you projects? And I thought that could be a good idea, because if you have my own team, and in time you just become very efficient working together, and that way we could actually create more value faster. So that was the kind of the trigger. So I wanted to address that, the quality problem on the engineering side. And then so we started Analytix Power. So the mission behind it is very much related to the reason we started Analytix Power, right? So it's to enable our partners to create value faster and cheaper. Right? So that's what Analytix Power wants to do. So sometimes we talk internal as well, and one of the things I say to our engineers, like, one of the goals every project we work at that we insert is to make ourselves redundant as soon as possible. So solve the problem with quality, share your knowledge, create value, and move to the next one. There's so much need in the market that we don't have to stay on the same place for a long time. So make yourself redundant and move to the next challenge.
Yeah, that's a great mission, because that's very similar to how I approach leadership and leading a team. Like, my goal is always to make myself not needed. And I feel like if I arrive to that state, then I did a good job. And then I can go on and find another team to work on.
That's exactly how I approach as well. That's exactly how I see that. My success criteria, if my engineer says, you know what, we don't need you anymore, then that's, it's a reason for celebration.
Cool. And scaling a company is not an easy task at all. So how has it been so far, the journey for you?
For us, scaling is not a goal. It is a requirement. So when we started Analytix Power, we said, like, we're not doing this to make more money and, grow the company to a certain size and then exit, sell it, and then, then you can retire with the money you have. It was really, the goal was really to create that environment that we feel happy and proud, right? So we are happy because we are spending a lot of time at work, 40 hours a week, right, of our life at least. So we want to enjoy that, but we also want to be proud of what we do, right? So that was the goal. Therefore, we never had this goal of, scaling or saying, okay, we need to scale more and we want to, hire more people, increase our revenue. That's more of a side effect. It is a requirement. It is because we work with big enterprises, and if you want to make a bigger impact and get bigger scale projects, well, there are some procurement rules. You need to have certain amount of people at least. So that is the requirement part. So when it comes to scaling, how challenging it is, I think for us the biggest challenge is to find the right people. Again, our focus is really on the quality of engineering. So we take time. We don't try to hire people quick. We start relations with people early enough. Sometimes we hire people after being in contact for a year and a half, doing some interviews or having some conversations, see if the mindset is fitting, if they are ready to move to consultancy business. And then when the timing is right, then we just make the offer. So therefore, yeah, scaling is still challenging for us, I must say. But on the project side, client side, we don't have much challenges on that.
Yeah, and I guess if you're really good, you end up being a victim of your own success, because working with big enterprises, if you do a good job, they will want to hire you more, and then scaling becomes inevitable. It's not something that you aim to do, but you have to do because it's part of the requirements.
Yeah, and before Analytix Power, I was also for a while I worked as an engineering manager as well, and there we were scaling pretty quick. And one day, talking to my engineers, I got the feedback that they actually did not want to hire more people for at least a period of time. And the feedback was that it's really difficult to onboard somebody, in terms of that person is understanding the culture, understanding the mindset, and being really part of the team. So that was actually taking a lot of time of the team, onboarding that person, slowing down overall. So they said, please stop. We don't want this for a while at least, because we see that the culture is shifting, mindset is changing. Because every new person joining, right, they bring their own personality, and changing that is maybe it's not something you should try out even. So then I spoke to our CTO and I said, look, you are giving me budget, but I'm not going to hire because the team doesn't want it. And they think that it's just going to slow them down instead of, increasing the productivity, which you hope for. So, and I said, I will stop for a while. I will pause it, hiring. So it goes same for Analytix Power for me now, that I want to keep the culture, the mindset that we have. So that's maybe why it takes a long time to find the right people, and hiring process for us takes longer.
Yeah, but it's kind of you can train skills, but culture is the hard part to train, right? You really need to find the right person with the right mindset, because if you don't, it's an investment of time and money to hire a person that then is not going to be compatible, and that's going to be a challenge for everyone already working in the team as well, because there will be clashes. But what I was thinking about is that it's interesting because it's counterintuitive if you think about it, the not hiring to accelerate, but it's something that we kind of know from some books and what is called as Brooks Law. Bringing someone to an already late project will just make the project more late, because it's inevitable. So it's quite it's nice that you took that approach, and I can imagine it paid off, right?
Oh, it definitely did. Especially in this previous experience, team became very, very productive in short period of time. They established their processes, their way of working, a better language to communicate with each other, and then hiring new people and onboarding them, making them become part of the team was way easier. And the naive expectation of you have one more engineer, so if your productivity is 5x because 5 engineers you have, it's going to be 6x. No, usually doesn't work like that. So 5x first period of time probably drops to 4 or 3x. The people, the team members needs to spend some of their time onboarding their new team member. And then if you hire the right person, if everything works well, then maybe you achieve 6x. Otherwise, it could be 5, something. So in reality works like that. But I think we have some basic thinking, just linear thinking that, okay, 5, I get 5x, 6, I should get 6x. It's a simple one. It's easier to understand. But the reality doesn't work like that.
Exactly. And it takes an experienced leader to be able to detect that pitfall. And you have an amazing background where you've been leading teams and leading architecture, and most recently you are working as a CTO. So I'm curious, from all of that experience, which one did you find the most difficult one?
I think the CTO job is the most difficult one. It's also because of Analytix Power. I am not just CTO, I'm also the owner of the company. So I don't only focus on the technical part. So the scope is way bigger. I think so far that's the most difficult part. But when you look at different roles, that there is a part of evolution that you need to go through, right? So as an engineer, focus is technical excellence. You try to get better. You try to learn more, and then you move more towards leadership. That switch is quite challenging, quite difficult, because first of all, I remember an advice from my manager, the first talk when I became the team lead with line management responsibilities as well. He said to me that, like, okay, Volkan, technically you're an excellent guy, but when you're now in your new role, you have to use your technical skills way less. You need to use more of your soft skills. So he said to me, like, sometimes you will see people doing things and then you will think that you can do better, faster, this and that. But the way how you communicate that, you need to be very, very careful. And sometimes you just need to see that is happening and you can't do anything about it, right? So you can't just go to that person and say, okay, what you do is wrong and this is how you should do it. Then you're going to lose people. That is the part that you need to learn, and you need to start to understand you're not an individual contributor anymore. You are more of an influencer. So it's small improvements, small things that can be done better for an individual contributor, seeing it's very small. But when you are in the leadership role, that you multiply with number of people that you're leading, so the cumulative value it could be higher. And that's how you should start thinking. And you need to give room to people, empower them. But on the other hand, you need to also make sure that, there won't be some catastrophic failures coming out of it. So finding that kind of right balance, encouraging people to think more innovatively, experiment, even fail time to time, and learn from the failure, which people learn more from failures than success, right? And so finding that balance is a big challenge. That switch is very, if you can do that, I think you will become a good leader. If you can't do that, then you will be, one of those people that is criticized, saying like, we have people in leadership role that they don't deserve their positions.
Yeah, indeed. It's kind of a tough one to crack, because you're basically, people think that you become a leader and you now have the power to make the whole of decisions and to drive everything. But in reality, you kind of lose the power, because as an individual contributor, you had the power to make the decisions and change the code and push whatever you wanted to production. Of course, people would review it and all of that. But now your power is gone. You have only the power to influence. You don't really have the power to do anything, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe some people think that when you get to a leadership role, you're going to just tell things and people will obey, right? So it's like a dictatorship. No, it's a lot of babysitting. It's a lot of convincing. People need to buy into your ideas so that, it can be successful. Because first of all, you're not the one doing. You need to convince the people who will do it. Psychology is very important, understanding human psychology. So imagine that like one day you are the expert engineer, like the authority when in the team that you are building things yourself. And then the day after, and sometimes when someone is actually even like objecting to what you do, and there could be even heated discussion saying like, yeah, come on, I know better and this and that. And then you become a leader, you can't have the same conversation with the same person anymore. Right? So you have to be way more gentle. You need to find a way to communicate your ideas or your feedback in a very constructive way. So that's really different role, different personality, perhaps when you need to have that.
Yeah, that's so true. When I had David back in the show for an episode, one of the things that he was talking about, as it was the one of the hardest parts for him when he became a manager, it was when he realized that his words had way more meaning than when he was an individual contributor, because now people look up to what you're exactly saying. So I'm curious, in your side, what is one part of the role that you never expected?
Well, yeah, again, I think it's the same part. So I wasn't expected that the soft skills were that important and the change required on the mindset. So I had to really find out like how to communicate in this new role. For example, like one of the challenges we had, like a specific example that we were, it was a startup working on a very innovative idea, building a SaaS solution and all. We were very, very skilled engineers, but like the product, like, one of the issues, for example, we were having a lot of bugs in our backlog. You could just look at it like any time of the day on your backlog, and there was about 300 average bugs, minor, some major issues as well. It was quite a big team of engineers building the solution. And we said like, okay, well, maybe, because we are working in Agile as well, but we need more automated testing. So we tried several times. We measured the test coverage, and we said, okay, well, our test coverage is about 45%, and we want to aim for 80%, for example. Right? So several attempts creating tasks and, assigning people didn't work. It was not getting any better. And then one day I changed that requirement, how we explain it. And I said, look, we want to be able to push the code into production, which runs 24/7, and then have a good sleep at night, that nobody gives us a call. So we need to make sure that this will work. And also we need to figure out a way to do that. So perhaps we need to build a framework for testing quality assurance or find a new one, right? So that changed things drastically. So after a while, I think less than 6 months, we saw the test coverage was about 90%. And for the new services that we were building, the team had like 100% test coverage, which is not necessarily a good thing, but that became really, because they don't want to do just a boring task, right? So they want creativity, they want problem solving. So when you frame it like the problem, we need to find out a solution to ensure quality, right? Then they use all their skills, their software engineering skills, they're intelligent, they want to find something. The motivation is way different. When you say, okay, this is 80%, 50% test coverage needs to go 80%, it's like maybe you have, 100 files that is not, tested at all, and then you just need to type test scenarios for that. There is no creativity in that, and at least it's not how it is seen. So this kind of wording, how you frame the problem, that is quite important to motivate people, to make them believe in it, and for the buy-in, and then afterwards the success comes. So the problem is not necessarily a technical problem, right? It's more motivation, that if people have the motivation, they will do it. They will do even better than you expect.
Yeah, I think because the problem is the same problem, the outcome is the same outcome. You just want a better stable system. The problem was the system wasn't stable before, but by reframing the way that you approach the problem, you can get a better buy-in. And I think, as you mentioned, that's a very important skill for anyone that is out there. Maybe if you're doing your first steps as a tech lead or an engineering manager, reframing or being able to motivate your team to pick up and do the problem, because all of them are smart cookies. That's why they are there, right? They are smart software engineers, and basically sometimes you just need to look into the problem with a fresh pair of eyes and reframe it, and then it'll be picked up by itself. That's cool. And if you were starting over today, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say focus more and more on the value. Become more outcome driven. Don't get stuck on only the technical skills, right? So those technical skills are there to solve a problem, create a value. So if it is on a commercial world, creating business values, but your job is not necessarily just coding, right? Don't reduce it to just coding. It is about creating value. So try to look at problem holistically. So what's the goal here? What's the value that needs to be created and what needs to be done? So coding is one part of the work that you will do, right? Another thing perhaps for my fellow engineers that I would say, don't jump on coding immediately, like when you want to do something, right? You just first think through it, proper design, understanding, ask questions. So what's the value that we want to create here? What's the purpose of this? And if you know more about the domain that you're working on, like the business, next to your technical knowledge, then you can actually also contribute with ideas, business ideas, innovative ideas that's going to create more value. So I would say that see your job is more like creating value, not just in the chain of activities to create value that you have a small part of. You can contribute more end to end. Look at the processes, look at the tools, look at the people that you're working, skill set, everything, and try to find the right solution and solve the problem in your mind first, and then you can type it later on. And maybe nowadays you don't even need to type it that much. You just need to tell to your vibe coding companion, and it will do the coding for you. But the most important part is the solution design than actually coding.
Yeah, and that's a really good piece of advice, because as everyone is saying, hey, all software engineers will be replaced because now you have tools that automate the code. What you basically said is the most important part is not the code itself, is thinking about problem and thinking about the solution. And that's not what the vibe coding tool is going to do. The vibe coding tool is going to solve something when you figure out what you want to do, right?
That's true. And if you look at vibe coding nowadays, it's basically we are just inventing a new language. So I see it's like a programming languages. These are abstractions, right? These are there to make things easier for us. Otherwise you need to code in machine language, right? And it will take a really long time. So we just do abstractions, and we just simplify things with programming languages, frameworks, tools that we are building. And each programming language has its own grammar, right? Its own syntax that you need to know, you need to learn, and what features out there. So now with the vibe coding, then we are developing a new language. Right? Can you say it's pure English? No, I think why I would say, well, of course, these models can work in different languages as well. You can communicate with them, but it is more of the kind of the jargon, like this whole prompt engineering, trying to figure out the right language to communicate with your model to get the best outcome from that. So that's what you will need to learn, but the rest of the work is still there. So you still need to do all the steps. And often you realize that, if you look at holistically, that the coding part is small percentage of the resources that you spent on there.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. I think I listened to it recently as well from, I think it was Linus Torvalds. He was talking about it in the same framework as basically it's just another abstraction layer that we have on top of coding, the same way that none of us do assembly anymore. Rare of us do C anymore. But if you think about something like Python then gets decompiled into C, that then gets decompiled into assembly, that it's just another abstraction layer on top. Now, instead of you defining your function, you're asking the LLM, hey, I need to do this, create as many functions as there are needed to do this.
Yeah. And like the startup that I was working as a manager, we also built a domain-specific language for marketing. So it was a real-time customer engagement platform, omnichannel, that we were building. So the digital marketing specialists, they needed to write their business rules. Right? So for that, we we developed a language, English, right? So that they could write their rules, which then, that rule is compiled into the Java code, and then the Java code that is being executed. When you read that piece of rule, it was just regular English that you would, talk to someone else, explain what this business rule is, how it works. So, and that was quite, specific implementation. And now that LLMs, back in time, if we had the LLM, we could probably use that. We built it with the Endler, and we defined our own syntax and grammar rules and all that stuff. So nowadays, I see very much similarities, right? So it's again yet another language. So you need to be able to clearly explain what you want as an outcome.
And I think that is a great positive way for us to end the show today. But before I let you go, if people want to know more about you, if people want to find you, if people want to hire you, know about Analytix Power and all the good stuff that you are doing, what is the best way for them to do so?
I would recommend to visit our website, and there is also a contact us section. Through there they can send us an email, or LinkedIn. So we have an Analytix Power page on LinkedIn, and also my personal LinkedIn profile. So I think those are the best ways to reach out to us.
Cool. I'll make sure to add all of them to the show notes. And once again, welcome. Thank you for coming to the podcast and having this chat with me.
Thank you very much for the invite. That's been a really pleasure.
Super. And to everyone still listening, keep your business value up to date, and see you again away from the keyboards.
Wanna hear you go.